Assalamu alaikum and good evening to all those who are watching. I would like to welcome all of you to our webinar today. Before we start the program, I would like to take this opportunity to say about the University of South Asia. Legendary ophthalmologist, philanthropist, and politician, Professor M.A. set up this university. His goal was to impart quality education at an affordable cost. Our present chairman, Professor Dr. M.A. Mohit, is leading us with the same motto. He is trying to make the quality education accessible to all classes of people. During the COVID-19 pandemic, he has declared scholarship and waivers worth Taka 6 crore and a half. Now, I would like to hand things over to our respected Dean, Irshad Ahmed Shaheen sir. As the moderator of the program, he will lead the program. Over to you, Shaheen sir.
Though things are not at all good around anywhere in the globe, from our side, it's a very good evening to all of you and welcome you all to our webinar entitled Scope of Improving English During COVID-19 Pandemic. This evening, we have amongst us our panelist, Nusrat Ms. Nusrat Jahan, Faculty, Department of English, University of South Asia. And of course, we have a very special guest in the person of Ms. Eni Ermawati Lasito. I'll come back to the credentials and achievements of Ms. Eni. After having said that, today's chief guest will appear sometime in the second half of our program, and he is none other than our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Dr. Prof. Wadud Mondal, and he'll be delivering his speech towards the end of this program. Now back to Eni's credentials and achievements. Ms. Eni Ermawati Lasito is an instructional assistant in the liberal arts program at Texas A&M University, Qatar. Currently, she is also teaching at Hamad bin Khalifa University, Qatar. Eni is passionate about working with learners from all walks of life who want to improve their English as a second language or a foreign language. Eni earned her master's degree in TESOL from University of Nottingham, Malaysia, and the CELTA teaching certificate from University of Cambridge. Her areas of interest and research are TEFL, TESOL, and of course, research writing and social media and English language learning. So very illustrious career already at this early age. Well, we start our program now. To start with, we must say that if we have a second look at the topic of today's webinar, we'll see that it's designed particularly for this kind of situation, the kind of situation that we are passing through. Well, the human civilization itself has been passing through a very critical period now. Not for once after the Second World War has this world been subjected to, or has this world undergone such crisis. You know, things are falling apart everywhere. The economies are receding. Millions and millions of people are losing their jobs or sources of income and whatnot. Things of that sort are happening always, and we are losing our near and dear ones every day. All these are caused by a very special kind of virus that now have us in its grip, the COVID-19. Well, But even this dark night, where horrifying nightmares are haunting us, we still dream of having glorious sunshine after this night is over, when the sun will come with its all-pervasive, glorious light and bathe the world and cleanse the world of its imperfections and the present miseries. But for that, we have to brace, we have to get ready. In fact, it's going to be a changed new world after the COVID-19 pandemic is over, by the grace of the Almighty. And for that, one of the things that we must do, that we should do, is to increase our communication. Because at this point of time, we are very detached. We are socially distanced, we are detached, we are segregated, and we are, as a matter of fact, under-communicated. And for the future, this is the time to get ready. And if we are to get ready, there can be no denying of the fact that we must learn English as much as possible by putting this period of time, this period of isolation and detachment, to the best use. And there can be no better utilization of this time than learning the most popular lingua franca, I mean English. So with that end in view, we have decided to hold our today's webinar and title it as Scope of Improving English During COVID-19 Pandemic Period. And as I was telling, we have a very special and a very befitting person as a chief guest here. To her, I'd like to put forward my first question. Now, Ms. Eni, we have been hearing a lot of things about, the everyday improvement in the world of linguistics and language learning, new techniques, one after another. So we'd like to know something about that from you and how we can put some of those to very good use effectively during the pandemic period. Ms. Eni.
Really honored to be invited by the University of South Asia, Bangladesh, and thank you so much for the host. Well, learning language online, especially English, is really not something new because it has been around for decades. And it started way back in the 90s when Open University first offered an online language class. So until now, though, we can find tons of language courses online, and Open University and British Councils are among the massive providers of learning language. But it also comes with problems. I mean, yes, you can do it in the comfort of your home, your smartphone, and your internet. While online courses actually attract significantly large number of participants, the completion or succession rate was actually reported to be less than 40%. So nowadays, we don't really have that much of options. Nowadays, we know what happened. Like, we are forced to stay inside. And as I recall from my experience, it has been more than 4 months for me staying and teaching indoor or online. But before I mention about useful techniques to learn English online, I would like to talk about us first as the learners. So the first aspect that is important as a learner is that we need to have an attainable goal. Just like when you plan for a trip, you need to decide your destination. So having achievable and attainable goals are one of the key success in any kind of learning, including the online learning. And the second one is that we need to maintain our motivation and attitude. This is specifically really hard, especially during the pandemic time. I know that some introverts, maybe they would really like to learn online or at home. But even for introverts, staying indoor for 4 months is too much. So in this case, first, you need to also have a balance for your mental health. You need to practice good hygiene. You need to practice something that is good for your mental health. And then only you can maintain positive motivation and positive attitude. But having a goal can also set us, can also help us maintain our motivation. Now, about the techniques that I've been using so far for learning English online. So this is something that I've been using for my students, as I also teach English online for the past 4 months as well, since the lockdown started. So the first one is, don't forget to show up. I know that you can find lots and lots of reason to be demotivated and then to just miss 1 or 2 meetings, and that happens in a lot of cases. It's actually difficult to track students' attendance or absence because you cannot really see them. And even if you attend the class, it's easy for you to actually lose your attention. So I would suggest you to actually show up and speak up in your Zoom meetings, even if it's not for the language, that you need to build that confidence for yourself. And then the next one is that you need to make use of the available resources online. You have your smartphone and your laptop and the internet on your hands, so that these will enable you to find useful resources. BBC Learning English is one of the most reliable sources for English that you can, for English language learning that you can use at home. Using English.com, you can study the grammar, and Fluent you can find plenty of grammar exercise. And then the third one is like use apps and technologies. So there are actually lots of apps that are developed, and by now they have actually reported to be effective in acquiring vocabulary. For example, these are 3 apps that I've been using, and I've also recommended these apps to my students. The first one is Duolingo. It has grammar, vocabulary, and functional language items that you can learn through memorization and drill method. The second one is Mango's Language. I've been using this app for a while now to learn Korean and also a little bit of Arabic, because I live in Qatar. So I feel that it's abominable if I do not learn any Arabic. So Mango's Language have been really, really useful because it comes with chunk of language, so that it comes with functional language, for example, making a request or giving advice, or how to do basic transaction in that language. So it has been really great, and it will be great if you use them also. And then the last one is Elsa Speak, where you can improve your pronunciation. I know that some people, they have really heavy accent that when they speak English, it can be really difficult to understand. So this app will help you to practice pronunciation. But there's one thing that I don't like about this app is that it teaches you to speak more like a native speaker. While I'm not inclined to that, I think having accent is completely okay, and you don't have to eliminate your accent, but it is more understandable for other people for us to speak with like more neutral and less heavy accent. So all of them you can use for free, and you can also use paid subscription. And there are actually reports and reviews from people that suggest that they can be helpful for us to learn language, chunks of language, or a phrasal words, phrasal verbs, and stuff like that. But it is not enough to actually achieve fluency. So how do we achieve fluency as a language learner? So we need to give ourselves time, and we need to have consistent practice. And the most important thing is that you need to make sure that you have a partner or someone that you can rely on, and that person can also rely on you in terms of language learning. You need to find someone with similar goals in language learning, and that you can hold each other accountable for the progress. Basically, learning language cannot be separated from other humans. So you cannot learn the language by yourself. You need to practice with other people. You need to talk with other people. Yeah, so that will be my answer.
Thank you very much, Eni. What a wonderful speech it has been. What a wonderful delivery. In only these few minutes, you summed up all the basic elements of how to learn English under these circumstances and in general. So thank you very much indeed. We were so enlightened by that. So we have designed today's webinar in a manner that would let our students to give their feedbacks or their experiences and how they feel about learning English side by side with our honored panelists and our chief guest, our special guest. Now, I'd like to start with a fresher, a first semester student, Ashik Jishan. I'd like him to be connected by our communications, our technical department working in the back end. Ashik, you are here. I can see you. How are you? Are you fine?
Hello, sir. I'm doing good. How are you doing, sir?
Just fine. Let's pray for each other and one another. Ashik,
of course.
You must have heard our special guest say those,
yes, sir.
Give you those people and all of us those valuable pieces of advice.
Yes,
now,
sir.
From your experience, what would you like to tell us? What did you get from advice and pieces of advice, and how would you like to speak from your end regarding learning English in this situation?
Yes, sir. Of course, sir. At first, I'd like to thank you for letting me talk in this platform today. And then I would like to welcome everyone on today's webinar. So as all we know that English has now become one of the most important languages in today's world. No matter what you do, if you're working or studying or whatever you're doing, you need to learn a good English in order to communicate with the developed world, or else you won't be able to communicate with the outer world. So how can we do that? We have to learn English in a methodical way to do that. So that means we have to learn English in a systematic way, because whatever you're learning, if you're not learning it in a systematic way, then there's no point of learning anything, because eventually you're going to forget that. So how can we do that? Like before, learning English in a systematic way was pretty much all right with us when we were having live face-to-face classes with our teachers. But since now we are having online classes, it's getting a little bit complicated, because we're not getting the proper eye contact with our teachers, and we are not getting to communicate with our teachers that much like before when we used to have online live classes. So what can we do in that case? Well, from my point of view, as because I had a little bit experience in teaching IELTS, I can say that there are some techniques what you can use in order to improve your listening and speaking skills both. So how can we do that? Let's first come to your listening part. What can we do for that? Well, all of us, we see news and everything, and right now at this pandemic situation, we are watching news more and more in order to know what's going on in the outer world. So why don't we switch into English news? In that way, we'll get to know more about the outer world, and plus we'll get to know about more English words and the pronunciations and everything. Plus, secondly, we can watch English movies and series, and this thing is going to help a lot of people, trust me with that. Then we can take the help of Google, because we know that whatever we are doing, even if we are in a class or we are sitting at home or we are watching a movie, if we come across a new word, we can just search that word into Google, and we all know that Google is going to provide us with its meaning, its origin, and its pronunciation and everything related to that word. So in that case, what we can do is we'll get to know about more words, and then we'll make a proper use of the modern technologies in student lives. Then comes the speaking part. Well, we most of us doesn't speak English at home mostly, so in that case, like developing our speaking skills when we're staying at home is getting a little bit difficult, but that's not a big problem, because whenever we are having our online classes, we can just make sure to speak with our teachers, and with our classmates in English. With that, doesn't matter if you're making any mistakes or anything, because our lovely teachers, our helpful teachers, will always help us in every way they we need it. So in that case, our vocabulary will be improved. Then again, when we're talking with our friends, that we do a lot, we can just make sure to speak with our friends in English. In that way, both of our English skills will be improved. Then comes webinars, right? What we are doing right now. Webinars, in my point of view, are a big help in order for the speaker and the listener to improve their both listening and speaking skills. Then comes podcast. We can use the help of podcast in our lives when we're staying at home. In that way, our listening and reading skills will be improved as well. And then again, one more important thing is we can just do shadow practicing. Like, you can just put your phone in front of you and you can just talk to yourself or something. In that way, your vocabulary and pronunciation will be really improved. So these are the things from my point of view which you can do in order to improve your English proficiency in speaking and listening and more sites. So that's all from me right now, sir. Thank you so much, everyone. Stay safe and stay home.
Thank you very much, Ashik, because I think you have covered all the four skills, the two intake skills and the two output skills quite effectively. As a first semester student, you have done more than good.
Thank you so much, sir.
Now, thank you very much. I'd just like to chip in with just a small quote from Ludwig Wittgenstein, that famous German philosopher. He said, "The limits of my language mean the limits of my world. The limits of my language mean the limits of my world." We don't want to let our world be limited. We want it to be globalized and open. We want to reach every corner of the world, every people. So let me put a question to our today's panelist, Ms. Nusrat Jahan. I'd ask her, despite this globalization, do you think our increasing dependence on the virtual world is having an adverse impact on the development of language skills? And there's a supplementary question to that. As far as reading with pleasure is concerned, do you think we can benefit from studying literature in case of learning language? Ms. Nusrat.
Thank you, sir, for such a good question. I think our special guest and also our student who have talked before me, they have already pointed out there are so many resources that are provided to us by the technology nowadays. So I don't think the virtual world is having an adverse effect on the development of language learning. I think it would be a blessing. I think what the learners need to know is how to use the technology in a better way, how to use the different kind of resources that the technology provides them to learn the language in a better way. For example, if the learners, they go to the BBC Learn English page or Voice of America Learn English page, they will see that there are so many activities and materials designed for them to improve all their reading and speaking and reading and listening and speaking and reading skills. So they can just practice all those things. So I don't think, I think technology, we are so used to technology today, so I don't think it has an adverse effect. I think it's a blessing for us, and we need to know how to utilize it and how to use it in a correct way. And for your second question, I think that literature works as the base for learning any language. Because, for example, if someone reads a novel or a drama or reads a poem, they actually know lots of new words. They know how those are expressed, how these emotions are expressed. They actually need to know that how they can express their thoughts and plans. So they can actually see how the language can be used in a variety of contexts. So I think literature is a good way to learn language. Let me give an example. Even in Sweden, which is very first country in the first world, so in 2017, a secondary school in Sweden, they actually assigned a fan fiction project to their students. to teach them better English. So let me tell you what fanfiction is first. Fanfiction is when a particular story or characters from a particular story is taken, and then the writer, they just write a new story regarding that. Some good examples of the fanfiction would be Harry Potter or the Supernatural TV series and Sherlock Holmes. So what those Swedish students did was they just took Sherlock Holmes. So we already all know that Sherlock Holmes is set up in a Victorian England setting. So they just took those characters and they just tried to write those whole story in Swedish setting. So when the project ended, teachers saw that their writing skill have improved, their understanding skill have improved, they learned new words, like their vocabulary have improved. So I think even now, literature have not lost its appeal. Literature can be used to teach any language, and it cannot be separated, like, you can just learn language by practicing the 4 skills only. So I think literature is an inseparable part. So when it comes to language learning, it is always a good way to give some project or assign some project or learn something with the literature so that the learners, they can enjoy the language learning. And in this way, I think the learners will learn to enjoy the language learning process more. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Nusrat. You have wonderfully said that, rightly said that, well, enjoyment, joy, pleasure, emotion, these are very, very important things. I recollect in my early childhood, I read limericks and, rhymes and very wonderful small stories, short stories, still are right in the back of my mind. I always recollect sentence patterns from that. And because I was a sportsman, I learned vocabulary, sentence patterns quite easily and, almost unconsciously. So that is a very important point that you have made. Now, in connection with this, as you said, as I asked you whether literature, the study of literature can help learning the language, would like to go to a sophomore student, a second semester student of our department, if she has anything to say about this. But before we do that, I've got a message that we are wonderfully happy to have amongst us already our Honorable Vice Chancellor, University of South Asia, Professor Dr. M. Wadud Mondal sir. We are also happy, sir. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum assalam. I'm also very happy to be with you, sir.
And in addition to being happy, yes, sir, thank you. And in addition to being happy, we are very proud that we have got you amongst us. That you have.
No, I am one of you, sir. Nothing to be proud. I am one of you.
but you have. I know, sir. You have taken out this time out of a busy schedule, whatever you say, and have come here. So thank you, sir. Thank you very much. So okay, I'd like to get connected with Samia Alam, the sophomore student.
Hello, sir.
Samia, how are you?
I'm fine, sir. How are you?
Just fine, by the grace of the Almighty. Let's pray for each other, one another, for all of us. We're in a pretty bad shape. The whole world is in a pretty bad shape. We need the mercy of the Almighty desperately, don't we?
Yes, sir.
Okay, Samia, the question I'm about to ask you is that, though our today's seminar is on improvement of English in this COVID situation, may I ask you one question, that do you think reading with joy, be it anything like literature, for example, do you really believe that reading with joy can help learning the language?
Thank you for your question, sir. Well, of course, I think reading literary stuff can boost our language sense in a big way, because literary devices are techniques that writers use to express their ideas and enhance their writing. Now I'm going to share with you all some of my favorite literary devices, which I find very interesting when I find them or when I discover them in the texts. First of all comes alliteration. It is a term to describe a literary device in which a series of words begin with the same consonant sound or the repetition of usually initial consonant sound in two or more adjacent words or syllables. I can say tongue twisters are great examples of alliteration, like she sells seashells by the seashore. And another one is hyperbole. It is exaggerated statement or claim, which is not meant to be taken literally. Hyperboles are often used in a casual speech as intensifiers. Example, the bag weighed a ton. Hyperbole makes the point the speaker found the bag extremely heavy, although it was nothing like a literal ton. Then comes metaphor. It is a very interesting device. It is a figure of speech in which a term or a phrase is applied to something to which it is not literally applicable, or a thing regarded as representative or symbolic of something else. As example, we can say her blonde long hair was like a flowing golden river. Another one is simile, which is a figure of speech in which two unlike things are precisely compared. Simile makes the writing and reading more interesting and lyrical. Simile also spark readers' imagination while getting this information across. A simile is a comparison, and often we can make them in a more subtle way for a better read. As example, nowadays I am as busy as a bee. Sir, I think I have been able to drive my point home, because spending some time enjoying figures of speech not only gives me literary joy, but also helps me to pick up some literary expressions at the same time. Thank you, everyone.
Yes, my child, you have driven your point home very adequately, because I think you have been able to communicate to the audience that it's anything that gives you joy, that gives you interest while you read, gives a permanent imprint on your mind, those sentence patterns, that vocabulary, that lasts long. And the way you have, put forward those literary devices prove that you really enjoy reading literature, and reading literature is just another way of improving your language. Thank you so much, Samia. Thank you very much. Now, I'd like to go for another very short quotation. It's very important. We learn by way of comparing. And whenever we learn a second language, we learn our mother tongue even better. We are a monolingual society, no doubt about that. We are so proud of our mother tongue. But at the same time, if we pick up English as the most popular lingua franca, I'm sure that's going to benefit our sense of language. So now I would like to revert to our panelist, Ms. Nusrat, and ask her if she would tell us something. Oh, I'm very sorry. It was Nusrat who had her stint last. So I'm going back to our valued special guest now, Miss Eni. I'd like to ask her that, well, as we were talking about it, learning with joy is very important. And do you think habits like watching TV, films, etc., when used deliberately, and as you said in your first stint, that goals must be set up, objective must be there, and there should be motivation, and all those things. This was such a valuable speech that you made. Now, may I ask, these things, watching film, playing games, and watching TV news, things like that, can they really help learning language? And if they can, I think this detachment, this staying indoors, this social distancing, in this kind of things, in this atmosphere and ambience, these techniques can help us in a big way. So, Miss Eni, please.
To answer that question, sorry. Okay, well, thank you. And to answer that question, I would say absolutely. If a research on gamers and English suggested that gamers have more vocabulary acquisition than the non-gamers because they're so exposed to games. So it is actually the same with movies and songs and all kinds of cultural entertainments that we have been having during this lockdown time. So by watching movies, you are actually able to hear and understand the spoken English fully. You can also learn about the colloquial language and the colloquial words that or their usual expression that we as second language or foreign language learners learn differently. We are normally not too familiar with those kind of expression, and watching movies and listening to the song can definitely help us understand that. And hearing how certain words are pronounced will help you to remember and memorize the sounds as well. I agree with Nusrat completely that reading is definitely helpful in improving your English. And I know that there are huge amount of, I think there are numbers of research that suggest that reading is actually one of the most significant way to improve your English. But I also still believe that you need to be exposed through your ears and your eyes, and watching movies and listen to songs is also equally important. But the key is actually to use it consciously, because I know that a lot of people will not recognize the improvement that they got through this exposure, because there is no way for them to assess their learnings. They just simply receive the input from the TV, from the movies and songs, but they probably never really use it. So by what I mean by use it consciously is that you have to use it intentionally. We need to go back to our first aspect as a learner in order to be able to become a successful language learner. So we have to set the goal, interest, and then we can go to the materials. For example, in the future, you want to be able to travel to England, or you want to be familiar with the culture and the country, or you want to go to other place, for example, and you need to learn the language. So you are more than allowed to use movies, songs as a way to learn their culture, their pronunciation, their expression, things that you won't be able to get through textbooks. And the second one is that you need to constantly practice your language. You still need to use the language. Find a partner that you can rely on to practice the English, that you can check the progress, and he or she can check on you as well. And don't forget to utilize your smart devices. Use technology, use gadget, because that is the closest help that you can get for the time being. So to sum it up, yes, I believe that being exposed to songs, movies, and other cultural entertainments can actually help you improve the language. But the key is that you have to use it consciously. So that's my answer.
So thank you very much again, and it has been so illuminating on our for us, for all of us. It was a wonderful stint that you again took and put it to very good use. Thank you very much. No words are enough. No words are enough to express our gratitude to you. So, as I've already told you, that we have a different pattern, a format for today's program. Each time a resource person, an expert is delivering something, it is followed by a student. It's a sandwich kind of program. We're sandwiching it so that we can check out on the student's ability to grasp from what the resource persons are saying. Now, since it was about watching television, films, by setting up goals and how we can benefit from that, if that can benefit us at all, would like to go to an 11th semester student of our department. We have already heard from a fresher, from a sophomore student, now an 11th semester student, Saifin Oman. Can we get him connected, please?
Yes, sir, I'm connected. I'm online.
Saifin Oman, you must have heard special guest's valuable delivery. She said wonderful things. Those were so resourceful, so illuminating.
Yes,
so,
sir, absolutely.
Have you got some illumination from that? If you have, just try to tell us how you think watching movie and putting these smart devices to good use, you can learn language, you can improve your language, particularly during the COVID time.
Thank you, sir, for giving me the opportunity to speak. First of all, I would like to say that I think it is possible to learn English through watching television shows, movies, and also news programs. And it would be a more enjoyable way to learn English. And I have developed my English skills by watching television shows, movies, playing video games, watching cartoons, and many more other things. But I used to use a few techniques to do it. But before I discuss about those techniques, I would like to talk about why we should really learn English through movies or news programs. First of all, we'll be able to learn the real English. By real English, I meant that the English that is spoken by the native speakers. As we are not native speakers, we tend to make mistakes while pronouncing many words, many phrases. But if we regularly hear the native speakers, we'll be able to correct our mistakes. And also, we'll be able to learn different words which can be used in different contexts. And also, we'll be able to know about their culture. And as we already know that culture and language are very interrelated and interdependent, which means if we know about their culture, it would be easy for us to know about their language too. Now I'm going to discuss about the techniques that I used to use and I still use to develop my English skills. When I watch a TV news program, what I do is I write down any new word that I come across with. And then when the news program is finished, I try to look for their meanings. And also I find what kind of sentences it can be used in. And then I practice them in my future conversations and also in my writing as well. And if someone wants to learn English through watching movies, I'll suggest they can watch a whole movie with the subtitles. Then again, they will watch the movie without any subtitles and see if they have it's developing their listening skill or not. But if a person only watches a movie with the subtitles, it would only be developing their listening. It would only develop their reading skills, but not their listening skills. That's why they should watch a movie with subtitle once, and then again they will watch the movie without any subtitles. But if anyone feels bored to watch a movie 2 times, what they can do is play the movie with the subtitles, and they won't look at the subtitles till they are understanding what the characters are saying in the movie. When they don't understand, they can look at the subtitles. If they miss it, they can rewind and watch it again. Using these techniques, I think a person can develop their English skills in an enjoyable way. And I would like to add something with it. As we have easy access to internet and we can find lots of movies, lots of articles, news articles, and also we have access to many books. So we can easily develop our English, and we all should utilize this opportunity. Thank you, sir. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. They were most welcome, and rather conversely, thank you very much, Saifin Oman. You have described very well how you have learned over the years by watching television, or watching movies, and all that. Thank you very much. So now I would like to go back to our panelist, Nusrat Jahan. The question I would like to ask her is, do you think language can be a thing of adjustment, improvisation, and continuous adaptation on the part of a learner? What I mean is that, does he have to change his language and adapt it according to the changing circumstances and ambiances? And another question about added to that is, now, what about professional English? Does it need changes? In accordance with the circumstances, the employer, what I mean is that, well, there's the same language pattern works everywhere, or he or she has to adapt it. So these are the two questions.
Okay. Thank you, sir, for your question. I would like to answer your first question, and then I will go to the second question. So for your first question, to answer your first question, I will give two very easy examples. So the first, I will say a set of words. For example, if we say words like blog or meme or crowdfunding or Twitter or texting, maybe our parents or grandparents, they could not understand like what we are talking about. But to us, this is very easy. But when the same thing happens to us if we read a novel of 60s or 70s or maybe 200 or 300 years back, we can get confused, like what is said there. We need the paraphrase. So we actually adapt the language of the 300 years before to our own language, and then we try to understand what is being said. Another set of example would be the words that we are actually listening in a lot nowadays. For example, flattening the curve or wearing mask, social distancing. So why all of a sudden we are saying these words? Because we need to express. So I think language is a continuous process. There is no fixed thing. It's not a fixed thing. It just changes over the time. It just flows like a river. So whenever there is need to change, or whenever there is a need to express a particular thing, we actually adapt the language. We actually invent or reinvent the words that might have been perfect to express what we are feeling that particular time. And to answer your second question, of course, we need, I think for professional purposes, we need a particular set of language. For example, if someone goes to teach, I have to use academic words. If someone is a doctor and he is writing a thesis, she has to focus on the words that are related to health. So I think whenever someone is changing their profession, or whenever someone is going to a particular profession, they need to build up their vocabulary. So they actually need to cherish, and they need to practice what they are trying to achieve, how they can increase their learning skills, how can they improve their language learning skills. So I think because the language is a changing process, this is what makes the language learning a more interesting thing. So I think the learners, when they explore, for example, earlier I have given the example of fan fiction, the same thing goes on for here, so this context. So whenever people, they explore a particular set of words in their own context and try to create the meaning, it actually gives a new flavor. So I think this is why it's very important to know that language is a continuous process. It's a very interesting and learning process. And the language learners, when they express or they explore these things, they actually get more interested to learn the language. Thank you.
Welcome. Beautifully said, Nusrat. Beautifully said. Well, when you were saying that language is picking up all the time, it is changing, it is adapting, I had a similitude. I just a simile coming into the back of my mind. Well, it's like a river, isn't it? As long as the river flows, it's living. As long as it heads for the sea, the ocean, it's living. If you stop it, if the current stops, it dies. So much similar is the case with language. It can never stop at a point. It goes on acquiring and acquiring new words, new sentence patterns, and all that. Thank you very much. Now, the last part of our students' participation will be from a 12th semester student, Mehdi Hassan. I'll ask him the question, but before that, I'd like to read out a quotation from Frank Smith. He said, one language sets you in the corridor for life. Two languages open up every door along the way. Now, as far as I know, this boy, Mehdi Hassan, he has been in profession, he has been doing jobs since he was a student of second semester. Now, has the second language, English, really set him up in the corridor of life? Mehdi Hassan, do you hear me?
Yes, sir,
Mehdi
I
Hassan,
can hear you.
Mehdi Hassan, my question to you is
Yes.
whether learning a second language has really set you up in life, whether it has really helped you to get jobs, to start your profession and carry on with it. And
Yes.
do you think you have been adapting to changing situations? When you were switching jobs, are you having to change your style of, are you having to use in any way different kind of language, different jargons, different vocabulary, terminology? All right, Mehdi Hassan, please.
Thank you, sir, for giving me a chance to say a few words. I have been professionally involved with Samsung since second semester of my honors program. I am now in my final semester, as you said. Initially, I have worked 3 years with Samsung. It gave me the privilege to work with different giant corporate partners. I think it has helped me to gain my professional skills and knowledge from those organizations. In such corporate atmosphere, I was compelled to pick up spoken English literally under compulsion, as I had to communicate with my teammates, colleagues, consumers in English. It was not easy for me to go side by side with my study. I had to manage both my study, office, university with much difficulty. Let me tell my fellow student a few words about this. I had to adjust myself continuously and pick up workable English under huge pressure. It's mainly because almost all forms of business communications such as emails, sales, presentation, marketing, even corporate legal documentation are now also carried in English. Good communication skills develops in the individual a solid foundation of knowledge, habit, thinking, working, and problem-solving skill that is profoundly necessary in this professional life. Profoundly necessary in this professional life in this globalized world. We all know that English is an international language. Knowing English increases your chance to create good career prospect in English-speaking countries and job in multinational companies. Recently, I have been appointed as a cabin crew member of US Bangla Airlines. This job is very challenging and fascinating. After joining US Bangla Airlines, I came to understand that how much one has to adjust with the change nature of a new job. I had to go through constant adjustment to cater to the needs of the new job. Vocabulary, jargons, style, approach, everything was new to me. I think improvisation, adaptation, command, and adjustment are very important to learn a new language. Inshallah, with good understanding and command over English, my career will continue to grow, hopefully. To sum up, I will like to say that English is an indispensable to a successful career, and you have to make a continuous adjustment in the process of learning and applying this language. Thank you, sir.
Most welcome. My pleasure, Mehdi Hassan. You have described, you have really answered my question very well, in the sense that you have adequately stated how you have had to react to changing circumstances, and you have had to change your use of language, use of second language. All right. Now, I think all of you would like to hear another quote. It's from Federico Fellini. A different language is a different vision of life. Well, we would like to enlarge our vision, widen our vision all the time. That's why we are always trying to do better in the most popular lingua franca. So the discussion and feedback part of our program is over. In a sense, the whole cake is prepared by now, but who likes a cake without an icing on it? The icing on the cake is still left. And as I told you, we are honored to have an honorable Vice Chancellor amongst us. I'd now like to request him earnestly to deliver a few words, or as many words as he likes, as a matter of fact, before us. Sir.
Okay, thank you very much. I must thank the Department of English Literature and Culture for organizing this beautiful seminar. Well, a scope of improving English during the COVID-19 pandemic. This is a nice topic, but I think you all will agree with me. In Bangladesh, we are in dire need of good graduates in English as well as in mathematics. Why I am telling this? My experience is that in Bangladesh, especially after our independence, English language is, well, I must say, it is not being taught properly, because the graduates I'm getting, even some of my faculty members, have seen they're unable to express themselves correctly. And same for the mathematics as well. I've seen mathematics is the language of science and technology, and English is the language of communication. But in these two fields, I think we need to produce good graduates who can really improve and help the country with good graduates in English and give them a proper training how to express themselves. I remember while I was in England in 1966, September 1966, I saw in the television Winston Churchill was boasting how we taught the world English. And he rightly said that they taught the world English, the Englishman, of course. Now, as you all will agree with me, English is now the language of communication. If you are not good in English, you will not be good in your communication. So, my request, and also I feel that our English department will be producing quality graduates in English. They will be asset to the country and help in improving the English of the general people or students, something like that. I still remember I was requesting Irshad Science, he is a veteran teacher in English. Sir, please help our graduates so that they can improve their English. You see, I have seen, if I ask somebody, please come forward with an application, I have seen in most cases, they are unable to write an application in correct English. So this is really very pathetic. So I hope our English department will come forward and produce quality graduates, and that will serve the need of the country. And I also thank our special guest. I think are you from Malaysia or from which country, madam? You are from Malaysia or our special? I'm talking to our special guest.
That's a great guess, but
yeah,
actually from Indonesia, sir.
Yeah. You are from Malaysia? No?
She's from Indonesia.
Oh, Indonesia. Okay, anyway. So thank you very much for being with us. And this will help our graduates and give the students a feel how to improve their English. And I think I don't stand between you and other things. Okay, with these few words, I'd like to retire. So again, my special request to the department that you are producing quality graduates, please keep up this so that we supply the country with people who can really help the language of communication English in a nice way. Thank you very much.
So, thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much for the wonderful speech that you have given us, you have delivered. It was really, we were really illuminated. It was a wonderful, wonderful speech, sir. Thank you very much. As sir rightly said, mathematics is the language of science. E equal to mc square tells almost everything other than gravity of classical physics. And Schrodinger's equation covers quite a bit of quantum mechanics, though we are just in the ABC stages of quantum mechanics now. We have a lot of things to know in future. Similarly, English, being the most popular lingua franca, is the language for learning, language for trade, language for commerce, and everything other than science. Even science, but for the purest part of it, is dependent on English, basically. So, learning English, the importance of learning English can never be overstated. And we should start from today to put as much time as possible into learning English. And from what we heard from our Honorable Vice Chancellor, sir, our panelist, and of course from our very special guest, I think we have reasons to be motivated newly and start learning English from today. You know, there are hundreds of podcasts and websites that gives you the opportunity to shadow and then set your speaking muscles free to drive off your shyness and get mentally prepared to speak in English. You can talk to yourself even if you just realize the importance of learning English. So I think this is the time to express my heartfelt gratitude to all who were here, our Honorable VC sir, our very special guest today, Ms. Eni Ermawati Lasito, our panelist, Nusrat Jahan, and everybody who worked from behind the curtain. I mean, our technical team, our communications team, and everybody who was involved. And of course, the inspiration that always kept coming from our Honorable Chairman. It was just before, all right, that keeps coming all the time. His precious advice, his encouragement, and inspiration. So with this, macabre, you know, surrounding the atmosphere, ambience, which is not at all good for us. I still hope that the sun will shine in near future if the Almighty wishes and if He forgives us. So, looking forward to that time and praying for all of you and seeking your prayers for me and vowing that all of us shall pray for one another. I would like to declare today's program closed. I end today's program with that. Thank you all. Thank you very much.
Thank you.